and other forms of racism couldn't come at a worse time for the Labour Party. UK-wide elections just around the corner. They'll take place next week.
Party's leader Jeremy Corbyn has ordered an independent inquiry into the matter, but what would that achieve, and would the proposed new code of conduct for members make any difference?
We did ask the Labour Party to offer a representative on this programme this morning. They said no one was available to talk to us. We're going to speak now to Jonathan Sacerdoti from the campaign against anti-Semitism. Thank you very much, Mr Sacerdoti, for joining us this morning on BBC Breakfast. Would you first of all give us your impressions of what's happened at the Labour Party this week?
Good morning. Yes, it's been quite an extraordinary week for the Jewish community and, of course, the whole of Britain watching what's been unfolding. Not only did we see more instances of anti-Semitism from, this time, an MP within the party, reminding us of when the MP Gerald Kaufman also made anti-Semitic statements at the end of last year, which have gone unpunished so far. But we then saw her apologising for these statements, admitting that they were racist and anti-Semitic. And then the next day, we saw Ken Livingstone, the former mayor of London, denying that they were anti-Semitic and that there was anything wrong. And as if in a comedy almost, referencing Hitler as some sort of defence for what Naz Shah had been saying. These sorts of things just pointed to the huge problem that Labour had within its ranks of anti-Semitism. And then, as if to make things worse, Jeremy Corbyn came out and said, "Crisis, there's no crisis." Now, thankfully, he seems to have acknowledged that there is some sort of crisis and decided to put in place some sort of inquiry in order to find out why that crisis is taking place. But for the Jewish community, none of this has inspired very much confidence in Labour's ability to recognise the problem, and now people will be waiting to see if they can actually do anything about it.
Is this, from the Jewish community's point of view, from what you've observed, a problem with just the Labour Party or other political parties as well?
Anti-Semitism occurs in all walks of life, and of course you will be able to find anti-Semitic people and those with anti-Semitic views, I would imagine, in a range of different political parties. But over the recent weeks and months, we've seen more and more of these stories coming out about people within the Labour Party, and it can't be denied that the modern left has within it a strain that does seem to have anti-Semitic views. That's a problem that the Labour Party has been very slow to acknowledge and very slow to deal with, and it seems even now still to be behaving very slowly in trying to root out that problem.
There has been a lot of discussion about whether the comments made regarding anti-Semitism and Zionism and looking at the definitions of both. Could you clear this up for our viewers this morning? Because there are contradictions as to whether or not Ken Livingstone was anti-Semitic in his comments.
I don't think there can be a lot of doubt that suggesting that Hitler was somehow working towards supporting Zionism, which was the movement, political ideology that's designed to enable Jews to have their own state and national self-determination, I think suggesting that Hitler was somehow supporting that is a ridiculous notion, one that minimises the actual reality of what happened during the Second World War, when over 6 million Jews were brutally slaughtered in a systematic attempted genocide against Jewish people. For Mr Livingstone to have suggested that that was Hitler going mad after his initial support for Zionism is undoubtedly anti-Semitic, in my opinion. I would say also that this constant refrain we hear from some people that they're not being anti-Semitic, they're somehow being anti-Israel, is ridiculous. The issue of Israel and the Palestinians is not a football match where one is anti-Israel or pro-Palestinian. This is a complex geopolitical situation that will require complicated negotiations and a solution. Simply saying that you're anti-one side or pro-another as a defence for things which can offend the Jewish community is an absurd way of dealing with this. And it's worth pointing out that in our latest research that we did last year surveying the Jewish community, 77% of Jewish people said that they had witnessed anti-Semitic behaviour that was pretending to be anti-Israel. Now, if 77% of British Jews feel that way, there has to be something wrong with the way people are expressing, albeit genuine concerns about something to do with Israel. People need to think very seriously about that, and we need to stop hearing Jews being silenced for saying that things are anti-Semitic, something they have a right to say as a minority group. They cannot be silenced and told that they've got no right to decide what is anti-Semitic.
Jonathan Sacerdoti from the campaign against anti-Semitism, thank you very much for talking to us on BBC Breakfast.